Hello and welcome to the second episode of the second series of Payara podcast dedicated to Java community. My name is Dominika Tasarz-Sochacka and as usual I will be your host for this episode. My guests for this episode are the leaders of Torino Java User Group, Simone Bordet and Roberto Franchini. Roberto is a seasoned software developer with over 20 years of experience, known for his active contributions to the open source community. He has founded and contributed to several open source projects including Jetty, CometD, MX4J, JBoss, Foxtrot and LiveTribe. Roberto has held significant roles such as the CTO and principal software engineer at Arcade, where he was instrumental in driving technology initiatives and remained actively involved in coding. Simone is one of the Eclipse Jetty project leaders, the CometD project leader and the Java champion. He works as a lead architect at Webtide, the company that provides support for services for Jetty and CometD. Active open source developer and contributor, Simone specializes in server-side multi-thread development, Jakarta application development and high-performance JVM tuning. He was one of our guests at the virtual Payara conference JUG panel in December 2024, and his insights inspired me to start this podcast series so that we can explore development and changes that happened to the local Java communities over the years and the common challenges of the Java user groups to hopefully also find common solutions to those challenges and ensure that Java communities are not only kept alive, but are thriving and growing. I hope you will enjoy listening to this episode. Java User Group Spotlight, Torino JUG, with Simone Bordet and Roberto Franchini. Hello, hi Roberto, hi Simone. Thank you for joining the Payara podcast.
Hello.
It's great to have you here. So, especially last time I was talking to Simone at the virtual Payara conference panel, where we had a couple more Java User Group leaders. And to be fair, Simone, you were probably the main person that inspired me to do this series of podcasts for this year because of the challenges that you brought up that then echoed through almost everyone else at the panel. So thank you for that. And it's great to have you back. And it's great to have Roberto with you as well.
Thank you. It's nice.
Thank you very much.
So can you, both of you, can you tell us a little bit more about JUG Torino and your role within it? How did you start and yeah, how it all began?
So I'll go first. The Java User Group Torino was, I think, founded in 2001 by 3 people going there. And I was invited to join probably as a 4th person into the Java User Group here in Torino, or one of the very early guys. And at the time, Java User Groups were pushed by Sun at the time, and because they really wanted to make this technology widespread. And then there were the times of Java Enterprise and EJBs and everything. So there was a lot of talking about Java and the technologies and everything. So the ecosystem was pretty effervescent at the time. So it was a good moment to create Java user groups and start joining people, because then, it was useful for people to come to the meetings and learn about new stuff. How do you do this with these new technologies that Sun was pushing out at the time? So it's been like a long ride. I think we're, I wouldn't say one of the oldest, but close to the oldest Java user groups that were founded.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Well, for sure, I joined the mailing list at the very beginning of the story of this Java User Group, but then I was involved in organization, I think, in 2009, something like that. And before there was a bigger group of organizers. And right now we are mostly me and Simone trying to pushing the JUG through the future and keeping it alive. And I'm quite sure that this is one of the oldest Java user group in Italy, at least. I don't know worldwide, but for sure in Italy the oldest one with the Milano one.
Yeah, I think this is something that I will probably look into and find out which Java User Group was officially the first one to be set up. I have no idea at this
I
point.
don't know.
Do you have a record of the foundations of all the Java User Group, or did
I'm
you
sure
pull
it can be
one?
found somewhere.
Good luck. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll try.
Would
I'll
be
try and
interesting though.
ask some people back from the Sundays, like you said, if anyone remembers. So, but there might be some information. But that is a long time, and it's great that it's still going. So, what would you say, Simona, as one of the people that were there first? What is the biggest difference when you can think about one biggest difference right now, how things are going in comparison to when it started the first couple of years?
So I would say that the big difference is now, I'm guessing, the amount of knowledge about Java that is widespread, reachable over the internet, which wasn't there at the time. So for newcomers, it is much easier to basically go online and find the solutions that they wanted to for their problems, or they can go online and find the full recordings on YouTube for a particular conference, or for many of the major conferences. It wasn't the case at the time. So I would say the information available is certainly plays a big difference. And this reflects on the activity of the Java User Group, because obviously not very many people would like to say, okay, well, I'll join in person to listen to this person that gives a presentation about the new technologies about Java. But fundamentally, if it is not like super new stuff, or the new technologies that have been pushed out in the Java world, then pretty much all the rest is available online. So you don't particularly need, even talking about I'll make like a clear example, which is particularly important, I think. Um, in the old days, the JVM Language Summit, where the very best of architects of Java were gathering together and having a discussion about the runtime, the JVM, and where the language is going, etc., wasn't that accessible as it is today. Now there is a conference in the summer, and maybe a month later you can watch all the presentations that have been given at the JVM Language Summit. So it's really great. And of course, would I buy a flight ticket to fly from Italy to Santa Clara or San Francisco to attend to the JVMLS? No, it's fine. And so, I wait 1 month and then I just consume the content online. So I think that is what happened in these past 25 years, and it's a big difference.
Yeah, at the same time, I remember the first years, the first, I think, 10, 15 years, there was a lot of traffic on our mailing list because people was asking for everything, and the mailing list of a Java user group is very friendly, and so also the people was not so under pressure even to ask something, I would say, stupid, or what they consider stupid. And nowadays, the traffic is very, very, very low. Almost zero mails through the week, because a lot of these conversation don't happen anymore, or if this conversation happens, are somewhere else on social media, or maybe on the chats inside the companies, etc. And so we changed a lot, and the context around us changed a lot. And also the participation of the people of our meeting, not only the conferences, is very, very low right now. When we are able to organize in person, meeting, we can't reach so many people as 15 years ago, when we were able to have, I don't know, 20, 25 people in a single room. That for a city of for a city as Turin, that we have 1 million people more or less, was a very high number.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's both a curse and a blessing, because in a way it's great that all of that information is out there. More people can adopt the technology, more people can have access and learn. But at the same time, the role that Java user groups had back in those early 2000s has changed, because previously you were providing that information or an opportunity to
Yeah, exactly.
exchange information, and now that is no longer a necessity, or at least not coming from Java user groups.
Yeah.
But
and the same happened with conferences. 25 years ago, there were like maybe 2, 3, 4 conferences. Even Javapolis was started, I think, in 2003, 2004, and then became what is now Devox Belgium. And it wasn't there before. So if you really wanted to go and meet people, you had to go to find different things. Nowadays, I would say that, I don't know, I receive emails about call for papers for conferences practically once a month, or even more often than that. So it's a natural thing. It's like you said, it's a good thing, because it means that the Java world is still alive and kicking, and of course, with all this availability of resources, Java user groups are a little bit fading out.
But of course, with what you just said about the conferences, because there's more and more of those coming, and I am totally aware of that as well, because we do travel to those events as well, and sometimes it's 3 major conferences in a month, or within 30 days. It's a lot, but it does mean that the audience is there, people are there, they want to do it, they want to learn, they want to listen to the talks, they want to go to the workshops. But in this context, then Java user groups role is still there, it's needed, but it's changed a lot. So I guess that is one of the key challenges, to adapt. And on that note, obviously, and we talked about it with other JUG leaders at VPC, and we talked about it with Garden State Java User Group in the previous episode. The big thing is the shift to hybrid or virtual events now, and that's obviously happened for majority of the user groups during the pandemic, because that was the only way to do it if we wanted to carry on. So how did that work for JUG Torino? Did you switch, and or are you doing both virtual and face to face? What is the situation right now in regards to how those meetups are organized?
Okay, I can go if you want. So we started to record our meetings before the pandemic, um, without live streaming at the time, and so we were able to record our meetings and put them on YouTube after a couple of days. When we and before, we were always meeting in person. We had a fixed in the latest year, I think, from 2008 17 to 2019, 2020, and beginning of 2020, we had a location. So every month we were able to organize a meeting. And then we switched to online meetings. For a while, we completely stopped our activity. And then we were pushed by Mario Fusco from JUG Milano, and he said we should do something, and so we just started to meet online for, I think, 1 year and a half, a couple of years. And right now, mm, we are not very. very, very constant in our meetings, because last year we had the opportunity to have a room for a while, and then we restarted to meet in person. We had a couple of meetings in another room that a company borrowed to us. Uh, but the main problem right now for us is to find the speakers. Because of course the technology is very established. There are not so many many new things, I would say. And of course we can't deliver all the speech, all the talks every time, even if of course every time we have a new version of Java, Simone delivers a talk about the new stuff, new things, new features. So at the time we are switching from sometimes we are online, sometimes we are in person. If we have something interesting, we prefer to have speakers in person, but we are not very. We don't have a fixed schedule at the moment. Simone?
Yeah, no, it is. I always think of the Java User Group activity, which is a voluntary, non-paid for me and for Frank, that it requires energy, and the amount of energy that you can put into it, it is drawn by the energy that you consume in your life, in normal life. So you have your life, your job, your family, and everything, and then what's left you try to put it into the Java User Group. So yeah, we'll try to keep pushing, keep saving every month a little bit of energy to put it into the Java User Group, but it's difficult. But I mean, it's not particularly difficult. It just needs like a precise schedule and the will to do it. But yeah,
I think
it's also a problem of rewards versus the effort that you put into it, right? So if you put up like a meeting and then you see like 25 new people, well, the next month you want to do it again. If it's always the same faces and you just go out after the meeting for maybe a pizza at the restaurant to have a talk about what you're doing, what you're not doing, then it is becoming like a friend meeting, and yeah, it becomes slightly different than a community activity. It's more like I'll go out with my friends for a pizza rather than no, I want to cherish the community and have a hangout together in front of a pizza.
Yeah. No, I think you mentioned something really important about how those groups are usually run, and I don't think many people realize that most of the times it is a voluntary activity. And yes, user groups may have some of the user groups are organized by specific organizations, and then people that run them are paid for it. But majority of cases, at least with those that I interact with, it is run by obviously people that work with Java technology as their jobs. But the Java user group itself is not the job, and it's extra effort, it's extra time, and it is all voluntary. So I think understanding that is also putting that into the wider context is also helpful to understand where the challenges are coming from, and why some user groups are seeing more issues with perhaps finding speakers or getting being consistent with running the meetups. So there's lots of factors like that, and I think it's quite important to say it out loud that majority of the user groups are run by passionate people that do it in their own time. And that obviously means there's lots of limitations, but that also means that there's a lot of heart and passion put into those when they do happen. So again, thank you guys for doing that. And one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast is also to make people aware that those Java user groups exist, and that they're out there for the community to take part in and benefit from. So, but some people might not realize they're there.
No, and just to put things in perspective, there are certain Java user group that were highly successful. For example, the mentioned before, the DevOps conferences were born from the Belgian user group run by Stefan. And I've recently been in Norway, in Oslo, and the Java User Group Oslo organizes the conference in Oslo every year. And I went to, I spoke with the leaders of the Java User Group in Oslo, and they have like a building where they can rent rooms. They have a company behind the Java User Group, and they seek for sponsors. And so, because they are a legal entity, they can accept sponsorships and so on. It really depends on, again, the energy that you want to put in. If you want to set up things in a legal way, you can just it's not that difficult to create an entity, and then having to, at the end of every fiscal year, to present the the balance of the company that you're running for the Java user group. Not a big deal. But you need to put the energy to set up all the things in this way. And we haven't, and so that's why, for example, we don't pay speakers. We have no budget to pay for flights to come here and have a talk. If they are nearby, we're very happy to host them, but otherwise we have no budget. So we rely also on companies to offer their rooms, and then the company benefits from this, because maybe if this gets something maybe recurrent, then their employees would be able to participate and maybe get up to date to the latest things that they wouldn't, maybe they aren't much aware of, because again, it's a work, and maybe you're not really looking up what's going on in Java 24 at this time, if you're using still Java 17 or Java 21, right, in your normal job. So it's okay. I mean, I think that's also the beauty of Java user groups. Everybody's different, and everybody's organized differently, and it's really good, because you can have wider experiences about that.
Yeah, totally. And it's that's the part of this community that I really like as well. There's the variety, and it's difficult to compare, especially that the Java user groups are supposed to be local, and those geographical locations would be totally different, and you would have places where there's tech hubs. So obviously there will be a lot of companies that can help sponsor and send speakers, and there's other things going on, like other bigger events that attract people, and then you can run an event around the same time. And then you would have groups. There used to be one little user group nearby where I live, because my closest one really right now is in London, and that's already nearly 3 hours away. But there was one that was about an hour away. But because of the location, it didn't really last, or even if it's still there, it's very people are not meeting very often, because there isn't enough people there. But it might still be running, so I have to look into that. But it really depends, and it's okay that those user groups are running in different ways, because that's the whole point, that they're run by communities, and communities differ from location to location and from city to city. But you also touched on this really interesting subject of how some user groups are able to kickstart something new, like a conference, which that is a great thing in itself. But it also sometimes means that there is a big conference, but there isn't necessarily a little Java user group for monthly or bi-monthly or quarterly meetups. So there's pros and cons, right? And then, like you said, the energy might go into one big conference, for example, but not into those little meetups that will attract only local people. So again, it's very flexible, and it's really good in that sense. So in that context, what would you say is, at this point, for JUG Torino, what is the biggest challenge? Maybe for this year, maybe not thinking in a huge 5 years plus, but what do you think would be the biggest challenge for you in 2025 in regards to running the JUG?
The challenge for this year is essentially to stay alive and trying to schedule more. As Simone said, it means putting in a lot of energy, even to find a room, etc. So maybe it would be better to stay online just because it needs less energy, less organization, and it's easier in some way.
Yeah, I agree. For me, the main challenge is keeping the consistency and trying to schedule a meeting a month. And seems like nothing, but the moment you organize and maybe you have to find the speaker, or maybe you are the speaker, you need to prepare the set of slides of the things that you want to present, and then it's another 3 weeks away for the next meeting, and then you restart the preparations and everything. So seems like a long time, once a month, but it's not really.
No,
And
it's
so
intense. It is.
yeah, and so but we're trying. I mean, in the past couple of years, I think we managed to do that quite consistently. So we'll try again this year. We missed January, I think, for sure,
Yeah.
and so we're trying to do again February. I have already Mario Fusco that is willing to come and offer a session, and then there's so many new things on Java 24 that it's probably worth 2 meetings for all the new stuff that is coming in Java 24. So yeah, I mean, and then it's already almost the summer. so it's okay. We're trying to push the Java user group along. Would be nice to finally go to the universities and trying to, I don't know, talk to them and try to understand what is it that would be useful as a Java user group for students. Even maybe some more basic sessions or meetings where we actually explain basic stuff, because sometimes it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to present Java 24 new features, but for a student at university, even the first argument that I'm talking about carries so much context that they don't have, that for me is natural. I don't even talk about what is a garbage collector, or what kind of garbage collector, because I give that for granted, but for them it's not. So that's it. I'll that could be an interesting point of view to discuss with professors at universities, but we'll see. It's we tried many times, a couple of times I would say, but never went in the proper way, so we'll see. But yeah, consistency in meetings would be our main challenge.
Yeah, so I think this is a call out to all the university professors on the computer science, computer engineering, all the related all the related courses to do listen to your local JUGs. They do want to help, and I've heard that before, Simone. So you're not the only Java user group that has a challenge there. Because there's this gap between what's being taught at universities and what is actually happening in the industry. But that gap can be bridged. For example, one of the ways would be working with local Java user groups that are actually there are those communities of people that are actually working in the field. So it's a great amount of people and knowledge to take from for those young developers and people that are thinking of going into the IT industry and into development, whether they're going to do Java at the end of it. Well, that might be one of the ways to find out to learn. So, and we did talk about this at the VPC panel as well. And this is one of the things that Garden State JUG is doing very well. But again, they have this benefit of being located at the university, and that is obviously helping a lot. So I do have my fingers crossed for you to hopefully it will work out, because I think it's a really good way of trying to expand the user group. So Simone, you mentioned Java 24, and this is something that you will be looking at this year and talking about more. So as those new tools, new frameworks, new versions are coming, which ones do you predict will be the most attractive for the user group? What are you planning to cover, at least in the next couple of months, that your group, your community will be excited about?
So there's many things I would say, depending on what do you exactly work on. Because now Java has so many things, and it is used in so many different ways that maybe a few things that are interesting for certain people, they're not really interesting for other people. So in general, I think that all the improvements to the language itself are very well welcomed. For example, the recent pushes to, trying to get all the pieces together to finally get value types in Java, that would be incredibly good for people using Java, and that could really be something that creates a like a jump in the adoption of the Java version, because like it happened when Java 5 was around, and Java 6 and 7, when Java 8 came out and it had the lambdas and all the new stuff related to streams. Everybody said, oh, okay, you know what, I could stay on 5 for the next 2 years, but you know what, I'm jumping to 8 because I really want to use all this new stuff. So I think that is a good way to update your minimum requirement for the Java, at least at the source code level, is improving the language. So that is a really good thing. Other things that are really interesting to me, but may not be to others, are all the work that is being done in the runtime itself. For example, one of the things that is kind of going a little bit under the radar, but it's probably going to be revolutionary, it is the Lilliput project, where they're trying to reduce the object headers from 8 bytes, like they are now in x64, down to possibly 1. And that will make a huge performance difference in the future. So yeah, for people interested in performance, that will be like certainly one thing that they want to try as soon as possible. So, but as I say, not everybody's interested in performance. So that's another thing that. And then there's a lot of small changes related to being able to teach Java a little bit better. So simplifying some kind of ceremony that happens every time you have to create a new class, and so maybe for students this will become interesting again. And so what we do not want is for Java to be replaced by Python or other scripting languages at the universities, like it happened when Java came out, and it basically over the years replaced C++ as the mean of teaching object-oriented programming and everything, because it was so much simpler to set up all the tool chain and have immediate effects, and you had all the libraries at your availability. And then there is, I guess, for 2025, I guess there is this big theme of artificial intelligence and related stuff. So, yeah, it's going to be huge in 2025. I would say that most of the conferences would basically talk about AI and related stuff. So yeah, we'll keep the Java user group a little bit more centered about the technology itself, rather than maybe the library of the year, or the hype of the year, or even if it's not a hype, I think AI is staying for the long run. But still, it's right now it has like a lot of attention that maybe like in 3, 4, 5 years will have a little bit less. We'll see.
Roberto, what do you think? Is there anything?
Well, I'm coming.
Mhm.
I've just dropped a job. I'm started a new job at the beginning of January. I'm coming from a big corporate with a lot of legacy software written in Java. So I think that for the company and for the companies and also the landscape that we have here in Turin, basically banks and insurance, uh, new version of mainstream frameworks such as Spring or Quarkus are the most expected, and also the integration of these frameworks with AI, of course, and so they are pushing on this way. OpenAI just released a new Java SDK, and so we are still relevant also in this new wave of technology, because if OpenAI releases a new SDK for Java, that means that there is a lot of software written in Java that needs this kind of integration. And for sure, AI will be, and we have seen this in the latest conference. I think that 70% of the talks were talking about AI and Java with AI and something else with AI.
Mm.
It's a pity that the university are switching for example, to teaching Python, the basic courses, because it's very simple, very easy to teach, and at least for people that don't need for people that is not studying computer science, so they need something. For example, my son is studying mechanical engineer. They have a course of basic computer science, and so they learn Python just because they need some scripting. And but of course, I don't like very much untyped and interpreted languages. Uh, I hope that Java will still be relevant, because I used to say that the JVM is such a it's a diamond. It's a diamond in the technology, because it has so many aspects, and it's so performant that it's a pity that not so many people is understanding it. And they understand when their software is low, essentially. It's a real thing. 'Cause, if you talk with somebody in other company, they say, yes, the young people developed this in fancy name of a language, and then we wrote it in Java because it's faster. So just use Java since the beginning.
Mm. And it's again this gap between what's happening at the university and at the universities and what people are learning when they're learning at the very beginning of their journey, and then what actually happens in real life in real companies and businesses. But I think I don't know. I guess it does depend on the university because we tried ourselves at Payara to work with some universities in the past, and we had both good and bad experiences in the sense that what we could teach was relevant in one place and wasn't relevant at all in the other place because of the curriculum and Java being included in one and not being included at all in the other. So, and then when we talked to Mike and Barry in the previous episode at the university that they're at, they teach many languages. So Java is one of them. So that is, I think, in my opinion, that would be the best outcome and the best approach. But as you said, quite often it's the easy way out, just
Yeah,
the simplest option, the quickest option.
so I worked in hard AI. As a friend of mine, he used to say, I was in a company doing natural language processing at the beginning of 2000, in the beginning of 2000, and at the time, all the software for NLP and machine learning, etc., was written in Java, because in all the university the people was learning Java. And so we had a lot of framework, a lot of, there was LinkPipe for machine learning, there was a WIMA framework from Apache for NLP, and so on and so on. And then the university switched to Python, and essentially all the data scientists are now using it. And all the stuff related to machine learning started to be written in Python, and we lose the traction. We lost the traction, I would say. But of course, the performances that we have right now with the JVM are unreachable, and so Simone, when Simone deliver a speech about the new version of Java, every time we have better performance than the version before. So
yeah, it's quite amazing. I agree. The JVM is literally like a diamond. It's one of the best technology that we have in the market, like across many languages. And then yes, you can use many languages, and that is also the reason why a lot of languages eventually ended up into being compiled into bytecode and then run on the JVM, like Ruby, like many others. And yeah, it's just a very good thing to have. So and it's improving, and it's not there like to go away. It's improving every year, every 6 months, and this is really amazing. So yeah, it's a good future, I think. Despite maybe not being, very popular maybe amongst the youngsters, but that doesn't mean that it is a good technology also for the youngsters and for the universities and for your first job. And then, once, I think it is true that when you get a good glimpse of Java, maybe as your first job, but then all the rest looks simpler. and it's easy, and and sometimes maybe you're going to miss it because you say, oh, in Java I had this library and I could do this. How do I do the same with this other language? And maybe you don't have it, and because, as I said, there's many things that the Java platform gives to, and they're now assumed, taken for granted. And it's like, oh yeah, of course I don't do memory deallocation manually anymore. Yeah, that's complicated. Yes.
That's your sales pitch to why universities should invest in teaching Java.
Well, they do. I'm not saying that they don't, and it's also good that they also invest in other languages. Absolutely, I'm not saying that they should only focus on Java. It is an open question that I discuss many times with professors, whether the university's job is to teach knowledge, and so, compilers and garbage collectors and, maybe 3, 4, 5 languages, and then differences between those languages. And so not really make you proficient in one language, but teaching you the theory so that you can go out, and then if someone asks you, hey, I have this problem, what language would you pick, as a fresh student out of university with your fresh master degree, you would be able to lay down a series of pros and cons for, and pick the right language for the problem. Would you would you proficient in that language? No, you have never probably programmed anything more than a hello world in that language, but the main characteristic of it, and so on and so forth. So if that is the role of universities, great, but then don't expect people coming out of university being already proficient on the first day of job. They need to understand what the company is doing and what is exactly the job, and learn 25 different libraries that are used in your project, like Spring Boot, and then Jackson for JSON transformations, and so on and so forth. On the other hand, if the university job is, oh no, I want to prepare people for the next job that they're going to take out of universities, well, then that is a totally different mandate. And it's very different from the previous one. So now you have to go to the university and start teaching, we have this thing called enterprise applications, web applications. How do I write a web application in Java? Well, used to be by doing servlets, but we don't do servlets anymore. We now use Spring most of the time, and maybe we don't even use Spring. Now we do Spring Boot and so on and so forth, right? And there were a lot of frameworks over the years. You remember Struts faded away. Now nobody uses Struts anymore for writing a web application, and so it's and then you have to know JavaScript on the client side because you want to use a framework on the client side too for your web application. So it's an interesting, I think, dilemma for universities about picking what side do you want to, what style of university do you want to be? It's like, okay, I'm the theoretical one where I teach you about, characteristics and features and everything, but I'm not really, it's not my job to make you proficient in that particular language or having you to know all the libraries or how to, what frameworks do you need to choose to write a web application. That's not my job as a university. Or maybe a university or something else where you go there and you say, no, I really want to be proficient in writing web applications so that when I study here 3 years and when I come out, I'm ready to go. It's a long-standing conversation that I have with professors, and so far many of them are on the first camp. I think only one that was in the second camp, but it's interesting.
It does depend on also what employers expect from you, and especially if your first job will be working for a company rather than be your own independent consultant, because I think that's really difficult to begin with. But if there is no expectation of a graduate to know a lot, to just be thrown into deep waters right away, then it's absolutely fine to do the first approach. And actually that, in my opinion, it gives young people or people that are just starting within this industry to make choice for themselves as well, what they prefer. They know what choice they have in the first place, because if they don't know what's out there to choose from, or they still have to search even though they spend those 3 or 5 years at the university, that obviously may not be a good way of spending those 3 to 5 years. But if they know what the choice is and they can make a conscious choice, I go into Java, I go into Python, I go into whatever language I want to, and then look for jobs in that area, then that's absolutely fine. So it's difficult, and we're not going to, this is not our problem to solve in a way. It's something that we can influence. So Java user groups obviously influence from this educational perspective. And for example, on Payara side, our influence would be to know what to expect from graduates that we hire, and let them learn on the job, which would be how it should really work from a junior developer perspective. So I wish that everyone would have this opportunity to really properly put their skills from a university to action at the good pace, because I don't think it's fair to expect from a young junior developer to know it all and to be 100% sure which language they want to use and how to do it. So
I had the opportunity to work with some junior developers, and a couple of them were very happy to work with Java. And I didn't know why. I asked them, why you are so young that you would like to really, you would like to learn Java? Yes. It's my focus is on Java. And okay. They struggle a lot because right now all the juniors developer, when they join a company, they find big projects ongoing since, I don't know, 10 years. And there are a lot of there is a lot of code, a lot of knowledge, and there are tons of framework, and not only not only the technology stack, because okay, it's Spring Boot with something else, but when we started with the servlet and a relational database. Right now you have you have a relational database, key value stores, search engines, and then you have okay, Spring Boot, but then you have to deploy them to the cloud. So you have to know something about also Kubernetes, Terraform, and maybe you have to fix the front end as this no more in JSP, but you have to know something on JavaScript or TypeScript.
Exactly.
And for
You
a
forgot
junior developer, this is a nightmare.
yeah,
They
yeah. You
they
forgot the 25 JavaScript frameworks that you need to know.
Yes, and they find. I used to say that when we joined when we started to work in this field 25 years ago, we had a couple of books to read. And now a junior developer has a pile of books just to understand where to start. And so it's difficult. I think it's difficult in any language, in any situation, just because the industry is big right now, and it's it's hard to start a greenfield project, and you will join a company that has an history and a lot of legacy.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes you have luck, you are lucky, you can start something new, but you should be very lucky. I was lucky even in my 40s, so I always thanks about that.
So I guess this is where mentoring from more senior team members is really, really important, and just
Yeah,
and
it's
just making sure, looking after those junior developers, that and then not expecting them, whichever route their university or whatever courses they did, because they might not come after from university, it might be different route. But just appreciating where they are in their journey, and that
yeah, of
really, I
course.
think the best learning and the most learning happens on the job at the end of the day, but it needs to be realistic from a employer point of view,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
they can actually do.
I spent a lot of time with my juniors devs a couple of years ago, and it was rewarding, even because you have to start to think in another way and reset your knowledge. You set your expectation was, and reset also your speed. I would say, and because of course they need to learn, they need to understand, and the field is very, very, very large. You have to know a lot of things. So start small with a reduced scope, and then let them to explore, improve, know something new. But of course, they are moving in a field where all was written, and you also need to take care of the previous code, the previous knowledge, and the legacy.
Mm,
Not easy.
yeah. But hopefully we are not discouraging anyone from
No, I hope no,
from
but
coming into this
I
field.
think that we'll find this in every industry right now.
Mm,
So because
totally. Yeah.
it's- so
Um,
I used to say that 25 years ago we were able to build something alone. Right now you need a team of 10.
well, we have AI coming, so who knows?
You need a team of 10 agent.
To manage, you need people to manage AI in the first place. But yeah, no, it's a really big topic just in general, junior developers, and how to welcome them into this Java industry specifically, because that's where we are, obviously. So you mentioned that you are doing your events online. So where, for those people who are listening, who are obviously not in Torino, they won't be able to come to any of your face-to-face events, where can they find you, and how can they benefit from all of the great work that you and your community are doing?
Okay, we are on the web with a website. We have a mailing list. We are on Meetup. We have a YouTube channel,
Yeah.
and
And And all of them have pretty much the same handle. So it's going to be at JUG Torino on Twitter X. It's going to be youtube.com/JUG Torino, meetup.com/JUG Torino, and so on and so forth for pretty much every social platform. And the website is jugtorino.org. Yeah, you can find us there, and easy. We're even on Blue Sky, I think.
Yeah, that's the way to go. That's the place to go now. Yeah. And is your content in English, in Italian, in both?
It depends mostly on the speaker. If the speaker is Italian, typically the content is in Italian, but we often host speakers that are native English speakers. And so in that case, the meeting would be in English. And for example, we recently hosted a couple of meetings that were in English. I think was it last year already, Frank? Or well, last year, like in last winter. Yeah. Oh, sorry, November. Yes. And so these were external speakers that came in, and they had a tour, and then they traveled across many other Java user groups, and they stopped by in Torino. We helped them organize the stop here in Torino, but then also going to Milan and other places. So yeah, it was those talks were in English. But again, this is one thing, for example, that the online platforms made so much easier to consume, because even if you have a speaker that speaks Italian, it is very easy to just go to YouTube and turn on captions if you understand a little bit of Italian, or even automatic translation into captions in English. And maybe they're not perfect, but you can certainly follow it. And so yeah, it's another plus of the platforms now that even if Java user groups were meant for local communities, but they can now be actually even more widespread. We have people register at our meetup.com that are not Italian from their names, or people that is registered to the Java User Group Torino, but we know they're coming from other regions of Italy, perhaps even far away, like Sicily or Puglia or elsewhere. So it's a good thing. It's definitely. We'll try to keep it running. But the original Java User Group idea is probably now way more blurred than it was at the beginning.
Yeah, definitely way more global now, which in that context is really good, I think. And thank you again, Roberto and Simone, for doing all of the hard work that you're doing to keep the community going, whether it's local or global. It's both, it seems. And thank you for joining the podcast. And I will make sure that we will link to the website and meetup and all of the socials in the description of the podcast, so people will be able to find you and hopefully follow you and join for all of the great content coming in 2025. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.